Happy Monday. Today is Monday, August 3rd, 2020, and our daily Bible readings for today come to us from Psalms chapter 17, verses 1 through 7, and verse 15, Genesis 31, 22 through 42, Romans 1, 8 through 15, or you could have read Psalms 78, 1 through 8, and 17 through 29, and Deuteronomy 8, 1 through 10, and then again, finish up with Romans. Today, I'm going to focus on Genesis 31, 22 through 42, and I'm going to talk about Laban. So, who's Laban? Well, let's talk about Jacob. So, the text has been on Jacob a lot, the story of Jacob. If you don't know who Jacob is, he's one of the patriarchs of Israel, right? Well, he is Israel. He gets renamed Israel. That's actually the text Sunday talks about how he wrestled with God. So you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob being the grandson of the patriarch Abraham. Laban is Jacob's uncle. He's his mom's brother, right? And so let me put it this way. We like to tell the stories about let's say what a cheat Jacob is. And he has that reputation, deservedly so. Remember, if you read the story of him and his brother Esau, it starts out pretty early where he's like grabbing onto his brother's heel as they're leaving the womb. Gets his brother to sell him his birthright for a bowl of stew, and then works with his mother to cheat his brother Esau out of his birthright, right? Dresses up like him, which is funny because he wears like goat skins, right? So puts a dead goat on him and tricks his dad into thinking he's him because he apparently dead goat makes him look and smell like his brother. So many brother jokes in there. Anyway, takes the stew to him and dresses up like him and doesn't like tell the truth when, his brother, when his dad's like double checking to make sure, and gets the blessing, the family blessing, that should have been his brother Esau's. And then consequently flees for his life because his brother Esau is absolutely incensed over this, and rightly so. So Jacob has this deserved reputation for being kind of up to no good and dirty tricks. But here's the thing. It's all in the family because his uncle Laban is just absolutely not to be trusted. And, as if Jacob thought he was a pretty tricky guy, when he got to his uncle Laban's house, he got a master class in dirty tricks and cheating. So anyway, the earliest thing we know about is when he gets there, he falls in love with his cousin. It was a thing you could do back then, and wants to marry his cousin Rachel. And so works 7 years in order to earn the right to marry Rachel. And on the night of his wedding, his uncle Laban fakes him out and substitutes his oldest daughter Leah, however you want to say it, not like Star Wars anyway. But so Jacob kind of finds out much too late that he has indeed married his sister-in-law, who he thought was going to be his sister-in-law. And, Laban's like, oh, dude, it's just not done to marry off the youngest daughter first. So you have, I got to marry her off first, but I'll let you marry Rachel if you work another 7 years. And so he gets 14 years of work out of this guy. All told, Jacob's with him for 20 years before we catch up to him at this point in the story. So he forces Jacob to work 14 years to get the love of his life. And then when he and Jacob come to an agreement about what Jacob's wages should be, he cheats him out of that too. So if you remember the story, Jacob comes up with this deal in order to get a fair wage, a fair inheritance from his father-in-law. It says, hey, look, I take care of your flocks and all that. This is what I'll do. I'll go through all the flocks, and I'll pull out all the ones that aren't like, all one color, all the striped and speckled and spotted ones, and all the black sheep. I'll pull them out, and then they'll all be mine. So that way, if you come through my flocks and find one that's, like a pure white fluffy sheep or goat, that's obviously not mine, and you can take it and you can accuse me of theft. And Laban's like, that's a great idea, Jacob. Awesome idea. And then he looks, as soon as Jacob is out of earshot, and tells his servants, dudes, go pull all the striped and speckled and spotted goats and sheep out of the flock and all the black lambs and just hide them away. So he, from the get-go, cheats his son-in-law Jacob out of his salary, basically, which it works out well for Jacob anyway because, well, God. So, Laban just can't be trusted. He is not to be trusted. And even Jacob's wives, Laban's daughters, get this, and so they all sneak away when Laban is not looking with their flocks, with their entire household, all the wealth they had accumulated, and they sneak away, and they're 7 days journey away before Laban catches up to them. About 3 days, I think, when he finds out, and then it takes him another 7 days to find him. Even Laban's daughter Rachel just has done with him, it doesn't trust him. She, matter of fact, steals his household gods, right? The idols that he has. And when he finally catches up to him, that's what he spends most of his time looking for. And so, unfortunately for Jacob, he doesn't know that his wife Rachel actually did steal the gods. And so when Laban shows up, tossing chairs and stuff and irate about Jacob stealing the household gods, Jacob's like, go ahead, look through my stuff. If you find them, then you can do whatever you want with the person who has them. Here's the interesting thing, though. On his way to catch up to Jacob, Laban is specifically warned by God to not bother Jacob. He's like, you will not say a good word or a bad word to him, which, he goes back on that because he obviously has a conversation with him. But he full on kind of lies to Jacob once again. He goes, why didn't you tell me this? If you had let me know you were leaving, I would have sent you away with songs and mirth, and I would have had a band follow you out of camp, and and you didn't even let me kiss my sons and daughters. In other words, you didn't even let me say goodbye to my daughters. You didn't let me say goodbye to my grandkids. Which is interesting because he's really not that concerned about ever seeing his daughters again or having a nice big weepy farewell with them, because when he gets to Rachel's tent looking for his household gods, he's throwing everything around. It says, he falls about the place looking for, so you picture him coming in the door and diving on the ground and looking under, pillows and cushions and benches and things like that. And meanwhile, Rachel's sitting on top of her father's household idols, and because she knows he's not going to touch her, that he's not that interested in her, and she says, you probably don't want to touch me. It's that time, and I'm in the way of women. And so he automatically holds up. So he doesn't really care about his daughter that much. What he cares about are these household gods, because they're his gods, and they presumably represent quite a bit of wealth for him. And matter of fact, he even when he talks to Jacob, he says, I was on my way here, but your father's God, right? He doesn't identify with the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. He identifies with these household idols. So it's like Rachel has stolen her father's identity. So I guess she kind of made off with his credit cards. Who knows? Anyway, so he gets irate, and he's going on to Jacob about how dirty Jacob's done him, and Jacob has just had enough. And finally, Jacob calls out Laban at this point, and he reminds him of what a cheat he's been to him. He reminds him of how faithful that he, Jacob, has been to him, and says, even though you did all this stuff, even though you cheated me out of my wife, I stayed by my agreement, and I married your first daughter, and I worked another 7 years for your second daughter, and even though you cheated me out of all the animals that you were supposed to give me, God prospered me, and I kept working for you anyway. I could have walked off then. So, Jacob reminds Laban about just what dirty tricks he's been up to the whole time. Like, their whole relationship's been defined by Laban cheating him. So, like I said, if Jacob thought he was good, at pulling tricks on people, if he thought he was good at, like the shell game, I could picture Jacob on the side of the street with 3 cups and a pea, him like, found the pea. But as good as he thought he might have been, he got a master class in it from his father-in-law. And so, I wonder also at this point if when Jacob's just finally had enough and gives Laban an earful and is reminding him of what a cheat he's been, if he doesn't also remind himself of the kind of person he's been, especially to his family, especially to his brother. Which is interesting, because the very next thing that happens to Jacob after this is that he then has to go off and deal with this broken relationship with his brother Esau. And I have to think that's why after so many years, after 20 years, he's still afraid of what the cost is going to be. So that's the daily Bible reading for today, the story of Laban and his son-in-law Jacob. And sometimes you just got to call out Laban. Anyway, that's it for today, and we'll be back for tomorrow with another daily Bible reading. We'll see you later. Boop.